I just want to say a welcome to Kendra, and I will turn it over to you. So feel free to go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Jessica. Good morning or good afternoon if you're in my time zone. I'm Kendra Mosley, and I'm here to tell you all about the National Farmworker Jobs Program, or NFJP. Hopefully some of what I share, in case you already know a lot about NFJP, will be something that you don't already know. You learn something new every day, and that includes me. I've been with AFOP now for almost 5 years. AFOP is the Association of Farmworker Opportunity Programs. Our membership includes all of the NFJP grantees, and NFJP is run by the Department of Labor. And I'll tell you more about that in a second, but AFOP was founded in 1971, about 50 years ago. And that was 7 years after the first job development program was created for migrant and seasonal farm workers. I'm not sure how much you all know about workforce development or how much you need to know since you're migrant education, but quick history lesson that would still be relevant to you all. Migrant and seasonal farm workers were left out of the legislation that was passed to reform labor in America. As you probably know, National Labor Relations Act of 1935 excluded farm workers. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1933 excluded farm workers. And it was the big unfinished business of FDR's administration. He accomplished a lot of social reforms, but this is one thing that he didn't get done. He did not protect farm workers. His son, 30 years later, James Roosevelt, was a congressman from California, and he helped pass the first legislation that was specifically for farm workers and job training. And that was under the 1964 Economic Opportunity Act. And that was the forerunner of the National Farmworker Jobs Program. It's now been reauthorized 5 different times. So there's been 5 laws governing this program, and it's gone under different names, but the current name is National Farmworker Jobs Program. It's nationally directed, locally administered. And it's for migrant seasonal farm workers and their dependents. And its response to the chronic seasonal unemployment and underemployment that they experience. It's the most successful job program run by the Department of Labor, and we're very proud of that fact. That's because farm workers are, as you know, working with them, the most motivated people to better their lives. Our members, the agencies that run the program in each state, are also motivated by their passion to provide farm workers with that opportunity. We have incredible participants and incredible staff in this program. It's currently authorized under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, better known as WIOA, and it's funded by Congress. And like I said, administered by the US Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration. So who is the NFJP grantee in your state? I have a map here I made, color-coded, because some of the grantees serve multiple states. There is one grantee, or one grant, I should say, in each state. No matter where you are, except Alaska, there is an NFJP, and including Puerto Rico as well. Grants are awarded competitively every 4 years, so it occasionally changes hands, but there is just one in each state, except there's always an exception, except for California, which has so many farm workers. There are 7 grantees, 7 organizations that serve farm workers and provide job training. So I hope you can see on the screen who your NFJP is. Each grant amount, resources vary from state to state, and the grant amount depends on a formula that's determined by the number of farm workers in each state. And that changes kind of constantly as well, and it's updated. So there's a lot of money in California, a lot of money in Texas, as you would imagine, quite a bit in Oregon, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and not so much Rhode Island, for example. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have them about the specific grantee in your state. Okay, sorry, I'm catching up on my notes. why would you want to partner with NFJP? NFJP can do a lot for farm workers, and I've listed all of the different services here. The career services and training are the two biggies. And you can see outreach, we do outreach like you, skills assessment, job search, we determine their eligibility for the program. That's kind of the first thing. We develop individual employment plans or IEPs, and they can also access other services at the American Job Center, which is one of our partners. And we facilitate that partnership. There's also housing assistance. Some grantees provide only housing, and they also maintain housing stock for employers. There's youth services, supportive services, and related assistance. Supportive services, unfortunately, are limited by a statutory 30% cap. It used to be the other way around up until the 1970s, I believe, when a new law was passed that governs the program. We often hit this cap and have to be mindful of how much grant funds we dedicate to supportive services. However, our members are very creative and resourceful in their grant operations. Some of them identify and receive other unrestricted funds that they can use to supplement that 30%. And they're also very adept at referrals and knowing which programs can provide more supportive services. Additionally, some of our, or many of our members provide health and safety training, and you can see which states participate on that map. They provide health and safety training on so many critical topics, such as chemical hazard communication, pesticide safety, heat stress. It's really important to help farm workers maintain an awareness of the dangers that are in the fields. As you all probably know, agriculture constantly ranks in or near the top 10 of the most hazardous occupations in the United States. So it's important that farm workers receive regular training on these hazards to help them survive farm work. You all probably hear of the reports that come out every time a farm worker dies of heat stroke in the fields. It's tragic and avoidable. So getting this information out makes it less likely that those deaths occur, and it brings it into the awareness of the workers as well as the crew leaders, and hopefully makes it more likely that they'll get the rest, the shade, the water, the bathroom breaks that they need and that they're entitled to. So you're probably saying, this is great. Where can my students sign up? Are all my students eligible? Where's the catch? So here's a little diagram to show eligibility is not identical between NFJP and migrant education. There is some overlap. Both programs serve migrant and seasonal farm workers and their dependents. And the definition of farm work, thankfully, is more or less the same. With that said, there's a little bit of gray area when it comes to the definition. So you might find some variation in how some grantees would define eligible farm work from state to state. The big difference between the programs is migrant education does not require any sort of documentation status. That's the beauty of it, since the law says everyone's entitled to an education, regardless of their immigration status. However, NFJP, if the participant is going to enroll in career services and training, there is a requirement that they have work authorization. H-2A workers who are growing by leaps and bounds in many areas can only receive emergency services. So our members are actually supposed to work closely with the state when they serve H-2A workers in determining why that worker even needs services, because as you probably know, H-2A workers are supposed to get everything they need from the employer. But our participants, like I said, require work authorization, and we can serve DACA. Other differences, you all have an emphasis on how long an agricultural job can be. And there's that emphasis on maintaining the migrant status, but we serve farm workers the same as we serve seasonal farm workers the same as migrant farm workers. So they do not need to move to be eligible. In fact, there's a great way that you can help someone you identify at first as eligible for the migrant ed program, but then find out later on perhaps that their job's actually stable and they haven't left the area in over a year. So refer them to NFJP. There's also a really handy crossover between the age groups. NFJP serves clients starting around age 18. Some serve younger. they're starting to serve more youth. They don't have to, but some of them propose to do that. And the lower limit is 14 years. The strength of NFJP is in determining what's next in the lives of young people or of adults. You know, it's supposed to serve all farm workers. So if they need additional resources and help working out what their career goals even are, NFJP is the place for them. This slide attempts to illustrate the overlap between NFJP and Migrant Education Services. We do a lot of the same things, but we have different strengths. You all obviously are very focused on education, getting that student to graduate or complete their GED. You don't have the supportive services or longer term career services that NFJP can provide. So it's a natural handoff sometimes when a migrant education student graduates. They can enroll in NFJP and pursue either higher education or short-term training, certificates, occupational skills training, anything that can help them obtain that higher wage, family sustaining job. So great, you found your NFJP grantee, you're ready to partner and start referring clients. What are some effective ways for doing that? So we've spoken with Nebraska. They were really amazing. And some of you are from Nebraska, so shout out to you guys. You have a great partnership going, and these are some of the ideas that Sue Henry, the state director for Migrant Ed, and Jody Stutzman from NFJP gave for other states. They mentioned you can set up a recurring monthly call just to keep your programs up to date on what's happening. This could be between the directors, but can also involve outreach workers and case managers as appropriate. Join one another's training events for increased exposure and awareness. Conduct joint outreach. There's safety in numbers, plus it helps build that relationship between the staff. You could consider putting on a regional or state conference to enhance the understanding of the opportunities for farm workers in that region. Have each other's phone numbers on speed dial. When enrolling a client, you can make a phone call to your NFJP counterpart. Consider co-enrollments or referrals of family members who could benefit from NFJP. You're enrolling the student, but could their parent also use services? So the parent could be referred to NFJP. We know that migrant education is important, and what you provide the farm worker kids with, their education and advocacy is invaluable. You all are knowledgeable about farm worker population, location, trends, and migrant patterns. We value your partnership. Jody Stutzman from Proteus, Nebraska, the NFJP grantee in Nebraska, she gave this example of how outreach can work in her state. So she said that organizations always want to make a very formal referral process, but what I have found to be the most successful was that migrant ed staff and I texted and called each other all the time. When a recruiter was sitting at home with family, she didn't have to wait to go to the office to provide the referral. She just called me up when she was sitting with them, letting me talk to them and figure out what they needed. I found that to be really important in our relationship. So whenever new staff comes on board, she has a meeting with the migrant education recruiters in the area so that they know this will be one of the most important contacts that they have as a grantee. So like I said, we really value your partnership. That is all I will say about partnering, and I really kind of sped through, went through that lightning fast. But I want also to take this opportunity to highlight something else you may not be aware of, which is the Farmworker Essay and Art Contest. It's a fabulous opportunity for children of migrant and seasonal farm workers between the ages of 10 and 18. There's really no strict eligibility requirements, unlike for NFJP. No documentation status is required at all. So this is really wide open for migrant kids that you might meet in the fields or clients that you have who are eager and willing to tell their story. It's also a great way to help you get to know your client. We've heard from some of the applicants before thanking us for the opportunity to sit down with their client and learn more about their story because they write about it or they draw about it. This is their chance to make their voice heard, get a prize, even win a tablet. So there's 4 categories. One art category for age 10 to 13, another for 14 to 18, and then a category for the essay, age 10 to 13 and age 14 to 18. And then there's 3 prizes in each of those categories. So there's really 12 prizes that are given out total. The third place prize is $100, second place prize is $200, and the third place prize is $300. And then there's the grand prize of the tablet, and all the first prize winners are entered into a raffle for that tablet. I do have a link. Let me see if I can type it in the chat. There you go. I don't know if it's going to work without the HTTPS. There's also Facebook and Instagram has an account, CIF campaign. On both of those, it's the same thing. And that account has regular updates from about the contest, as well as just messages for and about farm worker children. There's also past examples of artwork that are on that account, so it's just really interesting to follow. This is our 9th year that we're having this contest. I don't know if any of you saw the book that I added a link to on Huva's platform. There's, I think, all of the winners from 2021 in that book. And so it's really, really great artwork. But I'm going to show you just a couple of examples that have stayed with me over the years. And there's a period of about 1.5 years where I was in charge of the contest. So I had the privilege of opening up those envelopes and seeing the artwork, being the first person to see the artwork that was submitted. This was from Julieta Cruz Flores. She submitted this art in 2019 and it won, hands down. She, included a description with the artwork, and part of it said, "Es increíble como de grande es el amor de un padre." And my Spanish is terrible, but it translates to how incredible the love of a parent or of a father is. And so this is her basically crawling across the back of her father to better opportunities in the United States. And it's a tribute to her father. And it was the one and only time we went viral because this artwork really struck a chord with people on social media. Another notable winner is Emily Camacho from Washington State. She was 10 years old, which is the minimum age for applying to the contest, when she entered an essay for the first time. And it's a real tearjerker. And she's also won every year since, just like Julieta. But this first year was the most powerful essay I've ever read. And I'll read a portion of it here just to give you an idea. Being a part of a farm working family is learning to accept what you do have rather than wishing for what you don't. It is getting your electricity shut off because harvest is bad. It's a family of 5 co-sleeping and piling on layers of clothing because you can't afford to have the heater on during the winter months when neither of your parents work. It's somehow learning how to hustle the struggle, but never realizing it because your struggle is actually our normal, a normal that is not normal for everyone else. So Emily was 10 when she wrote this, and she's now, I think, 13, but she keeps on entering into the contest and she keeps winning. And yes, she was 10. Last year I was really happy because she entered the raffle to win the tablet, and she got the tablet as well. So my presentation is fun, lickety split, but I want to give you the biggest takeaway I want you to have from this presentation is that farm workers deserve a living wage, but they often don't get that. And that is why our members, AFOP members, are here That's why Nfjp exists, is to help them obtain that living wage. There's one participant recently from Nevada. He lost his job during COVID and no longer had anything else to lose. So he enrolled with Nfjp. He got his truck driving license and got another job in agriculture. So he's still a farm worker, but he gets paid way more for what he does now than he did before. I believe it was $18 an hour. And he said, I was so happy. I told my wife, I'm old. I have never had a job earning a livable income. But now he does. AFOP believes that everyone deserves a living wage, including and especially farm workers. And we accomplish that through Nfjp. And this is a refrain that you'll see on our social media accounts. We just constantly beat the drum. Farm workers deserve better. So here's our main account on social media at AFOP Health. You can go here to keep abreast of developments with AFOP, as well as the constant health and safety issues that are facing farm workers in the fields. We go out to the fields regularly and collect stories and accounts from farm workers who are out there just the same as you all do, and we try to raise their profile on social media and get them the rights that they deserve. Like I said, National Labor Relations Act, Fair Labor Standards Act are still the law of the land, and they still don't afford farm workers the same rights as workers in other industries. This is my contact information. Again, if you don't know how to get in touch with your Nfjp grantee, reach out to me. I'm happy to find that person who, depending on the grantee in your state, it might be a complicated organizational structure and you don't know who is really the person who's in charge of this program. I will be able to connect you with that person. Also, if you have any questions about the contest or about Nfjp more generally, I am happy to answer those. And please enter into the chat if you have questions, and I'm happy to facilitate conversation about it.
So what I may do is stop recording right now. That way we have the general information for anyone that's listening to it about AFOP. And so I'll go ahead and stop recording.